Are we recording? Is this thing on?
Yes, it is. Welcome to RevOps 500, where we invite the world's top marketers to answer the tough questions facing growing organizations.
Ooh, sounds important.
I'm Sajeel Qureshi.
And I'm Gil Bates. Join us as we dive deep into the world of RevOps.
We'll be learning strategies and expertise from firsthand experience. RevOps 500 is sponsored by Qualitative. They provide technical and development expertise to growth-focused marketing teams.
Let's get started.
Hey everyone, Sajeel Qureshi here with another episode of RevOps 500, where we interview some of the world's greatest B2B minds out there, and that's certainly my guest today. He is his background starts way back when, but he was one of the first 15 or 20 employees at HubSpot. Most importantly, and of note, he was the brainchild, the mastermind, the guru behind developing the world famous HubSpot partner program, which now is home to thousands and thousands of agencies throughout the world. And now you can see him as the CEO of DataBox. I think he's been there for about 8 years to date. 8 years to date. So Pete Caputa, welcome to RevOps 500s.
Thanks, Sajeel. It's good to be here. I was waiting.
Is it really though?
You were going to invite me to join you. Took you for a while.
Yeah, I had to fit into my busy schedule.
You got a lot going on.
I got a lot going on. Sure, not really, but still. Anyway, Pete. So let's get right into it. So, Pete, what is one RevOps myth that you can share with our listeners?
One RevOps myth. I wasn't ready for this question, so I'm doing this off the top of my head. But I think it is this idea of a straight line between like prospect to customer. I like marketing and sales are trying to like fit prospects through a process, and maybe on average it works, but in reality, buyers take a crazy circuitous start-stop journey from going from unaware of a problem and unaware of the solution to becoming aware and then to the point where they ultimately make a decision to change something and buy a product. So I think it's this idea that that everything's so linear and everything's so measurable. In reality, it's a big cluster.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing, and let's talk a little bit about DataBox. So, I mean, you guys do a lot of work with agencies, HubSpot partner agencies, marketing agencies, people who want to improve their reporting, those sorts of things. But a lot of the times, your team seems like you're talking to people who are not your customers. Like they're not paying monthly bills or annual subscriptions to DataBox, but they're still in your ecosystem somewhere. And why is that? What's the reason for that?
Why do we do that?
Why do you do that? Why do you waste all the time?
You're almost asking that in a way where you're like, what the hell are you doing all this for?
Yeah, right? What are you doing, Pete?
Why are you talking to people who aren't going to be your customers? Why are you collaborating with people who aren't
because you just said it's not linear. So what exactly is it then? I mean, for you guys,
it's a series of activities that you do that correlate to improvement in your performance, but it's not like, I think the problem I see with most, say, marketing and sales org is like they spend money on paid ads, they put people to a landing page, they capture a lead, then the sales team goes crazy trying to pitch them, and then if they don't buy in 30 days or don't respond in 16 emails, they give up. And so it's so one track. I have a salesperson in my LinkedIn DMs every like month and a half. He reads something I write and then he tries to twist it into some kind of problem that he thinks I have that his product will solve. Like the only conversation he's willing to have or capable of having is like, will you buy my product? Do you have this problem? Yeah. Do you want to see my product? Do you want to talk to me about my product? And so that is not how people buy. It's like, that's it. And like, I literally told him, I'm like, you're like an annoying, like if I was a female and I was dating, he's like the annoying guy that only ever like asks for what he wants. You know what I mean? instead of saying, what are you interested in achieving in life? What are you working on? Right? Like there's absolutely zero interest in learning about me or the company. It's like, let me tell you how awesome we are and all the problems we solve. And so, obviously it's like, I'm beyond frustrated with people.
Yeah.
And like he is like, he's so ignorant to the point where he's doing it on purpose. Like I think told him like, dude, you're so one dimensional in your conversation. And then what did he turn around and do? Say, thanks for the feedback. Oh, by the way, other companies like yours had this problem and they use us to fix the problem. Like, dude, I literally just told you that you need to like develop some well-roundedness if you want to have a conversation with me. And all you do is keep bitching me. And so he's like, what, like poorly intentioned, right? Maybe he doesn't know better. He's stupid. He doesn't know better. But
Mm.
the problem is lots of other companies copy that. This company is well known. That I'm talking about. This rep is from a company that's well run, well known,
Okay.
right? They can get away with it because I know their company, and many of the people he's reaching out to know who they are. We're using an alternative, right? And so he can get away with it. He's the better alternative. He's more sophisticated, it's a better product, right? The one we're using. And so he knows it. But the problem is when smaller companies start to do the same shit that he does, it's awful. It doesn't work. And so then they give up and they try something else. And there's this hamster wheel of trying a new marketing channel, trying a new sales tactic. And it's like, I've seen it so many times now I know enough small business owners to know that they literally just jump from one thing to the next and nothing works because they are looking for the short path to sales and success. And it doesn't exist.
And so that's a very interesting take to have, considering where you've come from, right? I mean, you've come from a world of attract, convert, close, and delight, right? Which is like, okay, you attract people in, and you use content or somehow you passively get them onto your radar.
Yeah.
You drive them to that landing page, and then you let that you let that salesperson kind of go in there and talk with them and get them to close. That's what we all bought at as HubSpot partners, the inbound success training way back in 10 years ago now. But I mean, now what you're saying is like, you're saying, okay, look, it's got to be more of a collaborative sort of growth where, for example, we're not customers of either one of us, right? I'm not your customer, not my customer.
We don't exchange money. Yes.
Right, but we exchange ideas. We're talking together now. I mean, and I know whenever I know someone needs reporting help, I say, oh, I know DataBox. Yeah, they're good people. You can they're good reporting. So in that way, yes. I mean, there could be some sort of an indirect sort of sale, but of course, nothing is measurable. Nothing is quantifiable by yourself or your team.
Right.
So where did that switch come from? I mean, like, it's a totally different
mind, or where the world changed?
Yeah.
I think
where did them? Because I mean, like you were a very accomplished person before you started to do this. You started to kind of drive home this idea for the masses to see that this is not the way to do things anymore. I mean, what switched in your mind? When did that happen?
It's based on my observations of how the world has changed. I think in 2010, when we came up with this concept of inbound marketing, and it's this simple linear process of like, write educational content, get search traffic, put calls to action, get lead, take leads, put it assign to salesperson if it's the right profile, if not, nurture. Like if they don't buy, nurture. Like that very linear process worked really well back then, especially for products and services that were unique and in a growing market. Like it still is the most efficient way to go to market. But if you're not unique, meaning you have lots of competition, you're going to have trouble getting that search traffic. Right? It's almost impossible for someone in your business to grow your search traffic in any way.
So what do we do? So then we have to do it this way, where we have to collaborate and have conversations with people.
The search market has become a perfect market. This concept of a perfect market where the best solution wins, because there's just so much competition that only the best is at the top, and there's too many other options, right? And And it's the top one gets a disproportionate amount of the business. And so once again, if you're unique, you come up with something unique, or you serve a unique market with a unique thing, you can break out. You can go and get that visibility that you want, crave those leads, convert them quickly. Like that can work. But most companies are not unique. They don't even try to be unique. What they actually try to do, especially in the professional services business, is try to fit in. They try to be available for known needs, right? Like this is a RevOps podcast. I presume you're selling RevOps services, or you want to market to people in the RevOps world to help them with services that you offer. I know you offer. So the right, but the way you're marketing is the way that if the other agencies, RevOps agencies are marketing, right? I know that your services are unique, by the way, but you're marketing yourself to be identifiable. And so that's the problem, is most people basically launch a commodified business, and then they wonder why their cold outreach doesn't get answered. They wonder why they're constantly dropping in search rankings for stuff that they used to rank for just a month ago. They wonder why their following isn't growing, why they aren't getting engagement on their LinkedIn. It's because they're saying the same damn shit as 20 other people or 200 other people. And so therefore inbound marketing doesn't work for them. Now, should those companies exist? Yes, they should exist. You have a known service. There should be options in the market. You should be able to exist, and you do exist, and many of those companies do exist. But the reality is they're existing off of word of mouth and referrals. And all the marketing and sales and stuff they do is inefficient, largely, unless it's capturing demand from word of mouth and referrals. And so if you're going to build your business on word of mouth and referrals, where should you go? To a empty search box with a Google logo above it, or you should go where your whole freaking Rolodex is and start publishing there. This latter, right? And so that's why
I thought it was a rhetorical question.
We spend time interacting with people on social media, collaborating with people like you, who could be a referral source for us, and potentially could and probably should be a partner of ours at some point, right? That's why we can invest that time, because you're sending us referrals. You're recording me on a podcast. You're going to publish it to your audience. You're going to leave a comment on my LinkedIn post. You do that every occasionally. You're introducing me to your network. That way, like, there's all these different ways that on social media, that network is what ultimately gets your message out there. So that's why we collaborate with people who aren't necessarily our customers. Although we do collaborate with a lot of our customers and a lot of our partners who use us and implement.
Yeah, and it just seemed like it was I appreciate the backstory, because it did seem like an epiphany of sorts, like where it just kind of it started, and then it kind of came out of the blue that DataBox is doing a lot of activity on LinkedIn there, and then that's the way that they're looking at growing versus the traditional B2B SaaS model, right? Where you're just kind of you have the SDRs, the BDRs, and you've got the account execs, and then you have Pete closing everything. It didn't seem like
I don't close anything.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no,
that's what I'm saying. But it's yeah, but it seemed like an epiphany, because for a while Pete wasn't making that much noise. Pete was he was the CEO of DataBox, and he was doing the day-to-day things internally.
Largely a bootstrap company. We raise money, but we operate as a bootstrap. We're profitable. We burned some cash in the last 8 years, but in the scheme of things, and based on where we're at, it's like a really small amount of money we burn. So largely we operate on a profitable basis, which is rare for a SaaS company, especially one that's growing.
That's right.
There are times when I have to do other work, and the public stuff has to take a back seat. I try to balance it now, even, right? Like this morning, I spent 2 hours talking about our long-term vision with the founder and our new VP of marketing and our director of product marketing, and then I spent 2 hours reading through pricing and packaging proposals from the team. So, and that this is my second interview on a podcast, and I've already also published two 2 posts on LinkedIn this morning. So I try to balance it in between, but yeah, there are times when I'm quiet because I'm doing other stuff. Like this year, I had to hire a new VP of marketing. I spent hundreds of hours like reviewing resumes, networking, screening interviews, managing the interview process, talking to candidates in between steps, like and really managing myself. So during that time, I wasn't as active at either LinkedIn or on the podcast circuit, things like that.
Yeah, and like let's say at DataBox, you've got RevOps is sales, marketing, customer success, and of course you've got
product-led growth.
Product-led growth, right? So I mean, also in that mix. Yeah. So how do you what is it like to be a DataBox customer and say you have so let's say you have a problem, and do you talk to somebody? Is there like a knowledge base that people go to? Do they talk to the sales execs? I mean, or how is that alignment
for an existing customer
done?
or for
for an existing customer? Let's say for an existing customer.
Yeah, so existing customer has lots of options. We do use Intercom's FinBot, which answers basic questions based off of our help docs and other knowledge that we fed it. So some of the support is automated. We do have extensive help docs. We're always updating, adding to it, reorganizing it in order to make it easier to use and information findable. We have resources kind of built into our product that actually communicate what's possible with different integrations. It's all built in. So like we're answering a lot of questions through that library kind of. And then we have a support team that's available in chat. We aim to respond to chats within 5 minutes. I think there's times when we're a little slow, times when we're a lot faster. But we try to aim to be within minutes for majority of the chats. And seconds, of course, in many, especially during working hours. We also have a more technical support team, which we escalate. That team escalates stuff to. A lot of times we need to get access to systems or have customers share specific ways they've configured other tools that they've integrated with us in order to figure out what could be wrong. A lot of times there's nothing wrong. It's a user misunderstanding. So, but the technical support team needs to diagnose that, and occasionally they have to escalate it to engineers to help us. So those teams are each. I think the support team is 4 people. The technical support team is 5 or 6. We also have an account management team who is available for phone calls when they're free. They take calls live from customers, but a lot of it is scheduled calls. They also are responsible for onboarding the customers. We actually just merged that into one role. The new customer comes on, they get a certain amount of time for free as part of the subscription to get onboarded from the account manager, and then they stick with that account manager for the most part for ongoing help. We do have technical services as well. So a lot of times people will come in and say I know or I don't know what I need to track across my business, and I want somebody to do it for me for the most part. So we'll scope it out. We don't just say, okay, we'll scope it out, and we'll generally try to fix price it. We have a few packages that we can usually adapt at will to
advisory consulting hours.
But for the most part, it's customized to them. And then what else? I think that's it. We also spend a decent amount of time in education and
certification programs, stuff
improving the product based on feedback. So we have a roadmap site where any customer can enter an idea or request or a change they would like in the product and vote for other ones. And then we prioritize based on popularity or what we can and can't do in a reasonable time frame. And then we have a customer research team that talks to customers more proactively around specific things that we have identified we want to add to the product or improve about the product. And so they'll do live interviews and surveys and things like that to kind of get customer feedback as well. So I think I covered it all. That's all the ways that we support customers.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of different avenues that customers can get in touch with you guys if they need support, need help. And like, is that something that obviously that's taken time to build in, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
I mean, how much effort are we talking to build some of that stuff? And where do you start? I mean, if you're starting from ground
Yeah.
zero again, like where what would you start with? Would you start with like a knowledge base? Would you start with an account management team? Do you start with the chat bots? Where would you start with if you had to start it all over again,
Yeah.
starting now?
I don't know if I do it differently, but I can walk you through like the sequence of things we built. So the first thing we did was we just onboarded customers manually, right? We had,
Sure.
I did it for the first few customers that I signed on, sell them and onboard them. Not my passion.
I think anymore.
Hired somebody pretty like my first hire was somebody to onboard customers. And then after like we established that, of course, that became a team at some point of onboarding specialists. After we established that, I think the next thing we did was the help docs, because through the patterns of what questions you get and what works, what steps in the setup process that somebody should take. Like it became real obvious, like we can document this and let people do it on their own. And we also put a lot of effort into UI, UX improvements, constantly like finding ways to help people set up the product more easily, set up a feature more easily. So like the help docs was the next step. I can't remember when we added chat. It was years ago at this point. We've used intercom for a long time. We might even had it when I joined. We did have intercom when we joined. I don't remember like spending a lot of time chat myself. So we might have like one or two people in there in the beginning. In fact, yeah, I think that is what we had before we even had an onboarding specialist. We had somebody chatting. And so that one I definitely would build out. And chat is still like our primary communication method with both prospects and customers. So after chat, and the onboarding, we did introduce account manager, and they've mostly their proactive effort is against our larger customers paying us at least $6,000 a year. And then see after account management, more recently we've implemented bots to help with support both for prospects and customers. I don't know that I would do that again. I wouldn't have been able to do that 8 years. The technology didn't exist. In fact, like we're one of Intercom's case studies for that, because they're just rolling out that capability. So yeah, I don't know if I'd do it differently again. At least from a CS perspective. There's many things I'd probably do differently about the business, but that's it. From a CS perspective, we have a good handle, and we did things in the right sequence that worked out well.
And do you feel like all that investment in customer success and customer support is like part of like your RevOps strategy of getting customers and keeping them? I mean, do you feel like that's like a big part of it?
So
do you have a good pulse with their sentiment and stuff?
Relatively low, right? We start at $59 a month. Our average customer pays us like $250 a month. So I think thinking through the buying experience and optimizing that was really critical. The buying and onboarding experience, and trying to automate, or not so much automate, but make as much of it as possible self-serve, was really critical. Like our sales team, they're closing like 12 plus customers a month, just at quota. So, and some of them are doing way more than that. So, and some of them do 20 some customers a month. And so I think without investing in that stuff, we would have had a lot of trouble there, because our sales team only generally talks to people who raise their hand and say, I want help, or they already set up a good portion of the product before they talk to our salespeople. So if we didn't have like the marketing, the onboarding experience in the app, the help docs, the chat available, many would probably give up.
Yeah, and that's an interesting observation that I've had. So like for example, I've talked to you, I've talked to 4 or 5 of your teammates, and even like our company has done the certification program through DataBox. We've created
Yeah.
the benchmark groups, which is one of your premium content offers, to use an old HubSpot term.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, like, but I don't think I've ever been cold emailed or contacted by a single. I don't even know who does sales at DataBox.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
don't
even know who the
cold
salesperson,
pitch. We
salespeople
never
are.
cold pitch. Should I? Should we?
Yeah.
Should I pitch? Should I be pitching you, or should
Well, I mean, I'm just saying as an observation, as somebody who's probably in your CRM somewhere, who's in your
Yeah.
RevOps mix somewhere. I've never actually talked to a salesperson, so it's a
Right.
very
Yeah,
unique
'cause
way of doing it. Most
they-
B2B SaaS companies would not work that way.
Right. It all. So we tried to be more assertive or more like follow up more, like because we got like 7,000 signups a month for our free product. And we actually had we're now our BD team's 4 people. Mostly what they're doing is responding to chats and reaching out to PQLs, people that have set up the product to a certain level in the trial. We had 15 people, and at that point we were emailing everybody signing up. We got such like incremental gain from that it wasn't worth the investment. And so we moved some of those people into different roles, and then we did do some cuts beginning of last year. So it just didn't work. And given our low price point, like $250 a month, like I can't afford to have a really inefficient BD process in front of a AE process supported by a sales engineer, supported by a free onboarding. So like the CAC, the cost of customer acquisition kind of adds up. And I'm not sure it would work either, because we're not like our product. You either need our product at a certain time or you don't. Like you either wake up somebody and say, like, I have way too much data all over my business and I don't have control or insight into my future performance. And then you say, okay, how do I do that? I need dashboards. I need to set goals. I need to track them. I need to build a model to understand what impacts what and predict future. And like, until they get to that point, you don't it's like voluntarily doing brain surgery. You're not going to do that stuff unless you really need to. So it's a tough thing to proactively sell to some.
And what keeps Pete Caputa up at night these days at work anyway? What keeps you up at night, if anything, or if everything?
I think the hardest part of what we're doing is the complexity and like the breadth of our product. Our whole value prop is that we make it easy for people to consolidate their performance data from the most, their software tools. We integrate out of the box with the most popular marketing and sales and finance tools. So, in order to make that easy, there is a ridiculous amount of complexity. It's like those pictures of like the iceberg where you can only see the top of the iceberg, but underneath there's like
all the stuff,
hidden iceberg. And so we have had to build, it sounds weird, but we've had to build that iceberg, right? That whole thing in order to deliver ease of setup and ease of use. So that's hard to do horizontally, meaning like we have different markets that we serve, and doing all of that at once is hard. So we're constantly like making trade-offs around focus in order to try to pull that off. And especially as we're doing that, again, largely as bootstrapped, it's difficult. So that's what keeps me up at night. It's like the number of things that we have going on.
The number of things that keeps going on. The volume of work. And like, you're always a big proponent. You have been for probably a decade now, that at least that I've known of you, whatever. I mean, it's like, you always talk about be needing to niche down or to simplify. Like a service provider should be simplifying like their business, their targets, target markets, whomever. Everybody's your customer, nobody's your customer. That whole school of thought. Now, when it comes to like DataBox is a product. I mean, do you have like is your niche target? Like is it the HubSpot agency partner? Is that who you would define it as, or it could be anybody who
it's a bit broader than that. Like, and we've ventured into different territories over the years. So like we carry baggage with us, or not baggage, but like certain pockets of customers that we serve well, and and they stick with us. But our core market is professional services firms, largely marketing agencies, who want to better guide their clients using data. And reporting is a piece of that, but that's like just the table stakes portion of it. Where our core focus is helping companies get a handle on their performance so that they can better achieve what they want. And so there's a bunch of functions in the product that people use to do that. The first and obvious one is goal setting. So, every company, every person in your business should have some goal that they're focused on. It might be joint goal with somebody else, or it might be sub goal with somebody else's, but goal tracking is important for any well-run company. That's the first one. But then there's benchmarking, which is helping companies understand if their performance is on par or below or above other companies like theirs. There's a forecasting capability that uses historical data, looks at seasonality factors, looks at holiday schedules, and helps to predict future performance based off of that. There's correlations that help people understand cause and effect. So, I think one thing that's really hard for many businesses to understand is like, if we do this thing today, what will it produce for us tomorrow? If you can't see it, and maybe even can't connect it, which is while marketing works now, is like you can't directly track users, individual buyers. So you have to correlate. And so there's a correlation capability in the product that helps you see, all right, is Pete Caputa's following on LinkedIn correlating to anything
revenue,
in the business that matters? So like understanding those things is done in the product. So a lot of our partners are using those functionality to kind of step ahead of their clients, and they're going to their clients and saying, what are your annual targets? What is the annual model? What do you need to achieve? What do you need us to achieve? What do we need somebody else to achieve? And do you have all that in one spot so that you can not just calculate it, but monitor it and report on it and hold everybody accountable to it, and change your investments if something's not working, or something is working, invest in it more. And then they're going to the next level of saying, okay, this is how the quarter was. What do we do next? You're really underperforming in this area based on the benchmark. Should we try to improve that? Or you're really doing well with this part of the benchmark. Is there further growth that you can drive if you really invest in that thing? And then, there's basically activities that should be done in order to manage a company well by the data on an annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily basis by different people in the org. And so our partners are bringing that methodology, that focus, the diligence to their clients, and really helping to lead them in their execution in a more strategic way. So that's our core focus. And it's not just our partners. 60% of our customers are their customers. So many of them use us on their own. We're finding that most small, mid-sized businesses are not good at that stuff, and that they need a guide, and that our partners can fill that void, right? It's something that we'll not want to do. We want to maintain a relatively lower touch, lower cost, in the scheme of things, product, while our partners really help to deliver the consulting and advisory services around
what the product, around what they see in DataBox. Exactly.
Yeah, what they see, what they see when they have it's like Star Trek, right? Where they're in the bridge. I don't know if you're a Trekkie. I'm not really, but I know enough about it. they're sitting on the bridge and they have all these monitors and they can basically monitor everything that's going on in the universe, basically, and of course in the ship, and see what's wrong and game plan and make changes with buttons, right? Like they can do pretty much everything from there. And so that's really, I think, how modern businesses work. If you I know how HubSpot did it, right? HubSpot did all that. Like we had this analyst team, expensive tools, AI tools, and complicated spreadsheets, but there was a core group of people that worked with the management team to help chart the course. In Uber, for example, they've written about this where they had like daily meetings where they're like looking at volumes of data in real time and then like making decisions in the morning and then like optimizing and moving millions of dollars of ad budget around during the day to different regions in order to like optimize the network. And so that's how more businesses will operate in the future. And there'll be, software that pulls it all together, one or two smart people paying attention to everything, and a handful of executives relying on the software and those two people to go and inform decisions. And they'll be doing it quicker because like things are changing so fast these days. Tactics and campaigns, they either work or they don't. Like there's so many things that you got to pay attention to in a business to really optimize where you're spending your time, where your team's spending your time. So yeah, I forget what got me on the rant, but that's where our focus is.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, let's talk a bit about that future bit. And so now what you're saying is that you're saying with a tool like DataBox, people like small businesses can function like big businesses because they'll have access to different sources of data that's in their business, but they don't know anything about it. And then using a partner of DataBox who can kind of take all that data and put it somewhere and make sense of it for them, then they can kind of function like, like a smart startup like HubSpot was back when you started there, or or Uber, like you mentioned, and you kind of say, look, this is where we need to like kind of, these are the symptoms, we need to press where it hurts. They'll know where those symptoms are, so you can go invest time, energy, resources there. Now I have to ask you, is that something that you saw when you initially started to change how you guys did your marketing, did your sales approach? Did you have that in DataBox before? And then look, okay, like we're going to, and then just kind of track what effect that played at all? Or how did the data tell the story for you?
I wouldn't say we just came up out of it, all of it, right? We're not the only ones, I think, preaching this.
Sure.
There's companies that have been using OKRs, objectives and key results, as a management system. There's the entrepreneur operating system that many people use. So what I'm saying is that you need an operating system for your business, and data is a big piece of that. Now, where I think OKRs and EOS missed the boat is that like they're doing everything manually, and it's only about like, hey, did we do it or not? When in reality, like the amount of data that the company, even a small business, produces these days as a result of their work is like 100x of what it was when OKRs were invented, and probably 20x or 30x of when EOS was created. So those systems are just built for an analog world, not a digital world. In a digital world, you literally can do something today and have a positive impact on your business tomorrow, but it's measured 100% digitally. You won't see it, right? Other than the numbers. Then that's true for a software business, true for an e-commerce business. I think it's true to a certain degree for some professional services businesses, information products businesses, et cetera. There's things that you could do that have an impact right away, and that gives them the ability to then proactively think, what can we do today to impact tomorrow? And at a minimum, what can we do today to impact next week and next month and next quarter? So if you're not asking those questions almost on a daily or weekly basis, you're missing opportunities for improvement. And you're missing problems in your business that you may not diagnose. And so this happens in every business, including ours, right? Where, I think our May sales results weren't great. And we didn't realize it till afterwards. Two of our 4 sales reps burned out and needed some vacation time, and it kind of screwed us over in May, right? It's like, could we have done something different? Maybe, I don't know. We could have pulled another hire forward a month ahead if we had anticipated that and like seen the fact that the sales team was working too hard and had too many calls on their calendar. Like all these things, once again, could have been measured and anticipated. And so that's a small example, but there's a million examples. The other thing that happened in our business that kind of shaped our thinking is we got up to we're a little over 100 team members at this point. And I run half the business and the founder runs the other half of the business. I run sales, marketing, service. He runs product, engineering, finance, and people, culture. We're like very roll up your sleeves kind of people.
Yeah.
So we were largely involved in everything. But at 100 people, it's impossible. It's like I can do one or two things well, any human can, right? Or most humans can. But once you get to 3, 4, 5, and you start to pay attention to 20, 30 things, it's like, it's impossible. That's when I lose sleep, right? So I think, and I don't know if it's 100 people or 50 people or even 25 people. I think it depends a lot on the complexity of the business. But at some point, you need to empower people to own certain parts of how your company performs. Not just empower, but like hold them accountable, right? So you empower them to go and solve the problems, identify the opportunities, propose the solutions, ask for budget, or fit solutions into their budget or whatever, and then hold them accountable to those results. And that's when data becomes critical, because you can't just trust that everyone's got it figured out. There's so many mistakes that individuals will make. They won't have full visibility into the company. They won't have enough experience maybe to make those decisions autonomously. And once you get to like 10 people like that where they're doing things autonomously, there's no way any human or even 2 people can pay attention to it. So at that point, you need to set goals around the things that they're working on and monitor that independently. Whether that's like me as the CEO or you as a business owner, or whether that's like one analyst that's paying attention to it, to those things, like you need somebody that's paying attention to that. And that's when data becomes the management tool that's really critical. Because you can't have visibility into it all without data, helping you translate what's going on.
Yeah, especially like I don't know if this happened at DataBox, but like if you have like you had 100 people, obviously you guys disagree on the best way to solve a problem. But if you're backing your conclusion with data, it might make it easier to get everybody to at least disagree and accept, or to at least move in the same direction, right? Because you have the data that shows some of that. I mean, do you use that for critical decisions at DataBox too? Like, do you actually use the product for your own internal stuff?
Yeah, like so. I was hired as the CEO, and the founder's in the business. He runs half the business, like I just mentioned. He's on the board. So like I can't just do exactly what I am, but I do reserve the right to make decisions. I am an employee at will both ways. And if I feel like we're making the wrong decision, then I have an option, right? So
drop the hammer. Sure.
What's that?
You drop the hammer, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So I've had to do that maybe 4 or 5 times over 8 years. Like for the most part, we get consensus. Now, I disagree with other people on the team, a lot, and I don't like to assert my authority. Like the other day, somebody pushed back on something, and I'm like, I rarely assert my authority. I'm doing it here, just to be real clear. Like I think it was by surprise that I wasn't engaging in a debate with him. It was like I just basically said, shut it off. We're not doing this. And so I rarely do that. And when most of our decisions are based off of either data we have, historical data that allows us to see the tweaks and investments in certain areas will help us, and what other companies are doing. Like we rely a lot on benchmarks, both performance benchmarks, where we can see literally what other companies are doing, as well as process benchmarks, where we're analyzing what other companies are doing and how they're doing it through our own data collection. So, and of course, we read and talk to people and do all the other more qualitative research.
Qualitative stuff, yeah.
But so it's rare that I have to like kind of assert my authority, and I reserve the right to. But but most of the time, yeah, we're bringing data. Like me and the VP of sales just did put together a 10-page document where we basically explained how we can um, have more control over our new sales by having a larger percentage of our new sales go through our sales team, and all of the different processes we have in place in order to get as many prospects as possible working with our sales team. And so and that's really data heavy, right? Like we measure, for example, exactly how those meetings get booked. There's three big sources. One is when the user starts a chat or we start a chat, and then we offer a call and they book it there. Another one is in app, like we have messages in the app that says book a call with our sales team to help evaluating our product. Another one is from our website and our marketing messages. So we track all three of those separately. We can see, okay, this is down a little bit. What can we do to improve that number? Get more meetings booked on the calendar for our reps through another channel if we can't control this one. This one's down a little bit. So that's like one thing that we do. Another one that we play with is different messaging we'll send to different segments of trial users based on their setup of their trial. And so we're constantly tweaking what can we send to try to get a higher response rate. And so we know, because we have an active project there, that maybe we can improve that number a little bit. And so we go through all those options, we list them out, we think, all right, which ones do we think will be the least amount of effort, which ones we think will have the most impact, which ones we have most confident in, who can own that thing, and then we go into action mode. We kind of do that every quarter, not just for that business need or problem, but more for every function in the org. They're sitting down every quarter to say, what can we do to improve and do better next quarter? And then we also have an OKR process that runs in parallel, where we have three OKRs, and then our three VPs, marketing, sales, and product, own one of them, and then they work with cross-functional team members to come up with projects in parallel. And then so we take the projects that they come up with and the functional ones, and we basically, each functional team has a plan where there's projects on it with an owner from that function in that plan, even though they might be getting support from other parts of the organization in order to execute it. So I think that planning process allows us to kind of, again, empower the team and then also hold them accountable, right? But it all starts with data. Like everybody, if they're not starting with data and it's just an opinion, I'm constantly saying every asshole has an opinion, right? On that. So like, where's the data? And if you don't have data, like, what's the minimum experiment we can launch that might prove that one way or the other?
So every decision, or at least culturally, it seems like at DataBox, you're trying to run every decision, be it like, I don't know, like swapping accounting systems or something like that. Even like, you would probably run it through some sort of a quantitative test. Okay, why this system versus another one? Okay, what's the data behind it? Why do we need it? And then, of course, you do the qualitative work of talking, discussing, evaluating.
Yeah.
But there's usually,
for example, when we decided to use the Intercom FinBot, which is basically using AI to answer prospects and customers' questions, right, based off our data set. Mm-hmm. There's an expense to that. It's a cost. It's actually per chat resolution. So you're paying like $1 or something per chat resolution. And so we had to do the math to say, like, all right, well, if we could take 20% of our chats and solve them with that, what does that free up our business development team's time to do? Does that allow them to go and proactively put a personalized, proactive message out to somebody who's not answering a question, asking us a question? Does that, or
and you quantify all that using DataBox, though?
That question more quickly so that they can then propose a next step to that prospect of talking to our sales team, so it helps us book more sales calls. So we had to do that math, right? And we estimated what the lift would be based on our current numbers, and then to see if that works and see if that expense made sense. So.
My point is, would you put something like that through DataBox itself, like as a user? Would you evaluate something like that using data, or would you just, that's more, DataBox would not the application's not there for it. I mean, you just do it as your own decision.
To estimate that lift. Yeah, no. So we generally will model those things in a spreadsheet. We have a modeling tool built into DataBox. DataBox is really for like once you've made a decision to do something new, you have to then connect that data, or figure out how to measure that thing, and then track it historically. You might set a goal in DataBox for saying, hey, we estimated the lift is this, and that, this is an ROI of 1. And so we don't hit that threshold of the goal, then this project is a failure, and we either need to revisit how we did it, or we need to, or if it's 1 and we just want to live with it, that's fine. Like, we can do that as long as it's not a distraction to maintain.
Would you say this is something that I learned in way back 3,000 years ago when I was in school? Would you say marketing is the most quantitative business discipline there is?
I'm an engineer, a trained chemical engineer.
I know. I mean, consider if you consider finance, marketing, HR or operations. I mean, would you consider marketing as the most quantitative, or would you say it's like it's more the pretty picture stuff?
Finance has to be the most quantitative, almost because sometimes they lack qualitative, right? This is an old story. I had a finance person that said, "Hey, this is what the team did over this period, and why can't we raise the quotas to that level?" I mean, they didn't realize that 30% of the number that they were using was the sales manager who was just processing deals and bought on their own. So without the context, right? Some of these decisions don't get made.
They don't make any sense. Yeah,
formed way. So no, I'd say that finance is generally the most qualitative function, almost because quantitative function.
Quantitative,
yeah, quantitative function, almost because they missed the qualitative.
They have no insight. Yeah, they have no understanding why the numbers are the way
the marketing side, there's cause and effect, but it's not as cut and dry as it used to. You either need to kind of measure everything and correlate after the fact to see, all right, at least directionally support it. Is our founders' followers on LinkedIn directionally supporting our sales, right? Or you need to do, much more complicated and expensive multi-touch attribution or data modeling, even, where you start to say, based on historical data, that we believe this channel is having this impact based on the algorithm, and you should keep doing that. So it's really hard to draw the direct line like it used to be when it was all your marketing happened on your website, basically. And so I don't think it's as qualitative as it used to be. I also, going back to my original rant, I think marketing should be more obsessed with creating a unique and differentiated business. So that might mean informing this product and service strategy so that it is unique and differentiated. It might mean uncovering insights that are that challenge prospects and customers to think differently. In order to raise awareness for the product. And so a lot of that stuff is very much about primary research, and some of that can be quantitative, but the first step in primary research is always qualitative research, interviewing, studying, observing. And so I think marketing should be shifting actually more towards qualitative stuff, and be less obsessed on the quantitative side
numbers.
Than many are. Now, I do think there's marketing should be held accountable to results, but it's less about that one channel or that one tactic or that one funnel. It's more about being able to measure things independently and then kind of make judgment calls on like, hey, that worked really well. I think we can do that better because I'm in the trenches. I know what I created and I know I can make that better. Or I got feedback from 5% of the people there that like that was the right thing to focus on. So I'm going to blow that out and figure out how to communicate that better and differently. I might do some research on that. Like they need to be almost paying attention to the qualitative signals or the feedback that they're getting around the stuff that they're creating and making some educated guesses, but not based off of the numbers necessarily, more based off of the response and the engagement that they get from what they're creating.
Pete, where can our listeners learn more about you or learn more about DataBox?
I am very active on LinkedIn, Peter Caputa. There's only one other one, and he's not very active, so you'll find me pretty quick. Caputa. And then for DataBox, we have a few free products you can check out. One is benchmarks. It's at benchmarks.databox.com. It provides free access to benchmark performance data, KPI performance benchmarks. So that you can see how your performance compares to, similar companies. So if you're a SaaS company with 50 employees, you can go and see, show me how SaaS companies with 50 employees or to 200 employees are performing with their HubSpot data. So show me their traffic through to their sales and let me see how I compare. But it doesn't show actual performance of the other companies.
Explicit data. It does show explicit data.
Showing
it's all in an aggregate.
And then, so that's at benchmarks.databox.com. And then we also have a free product at databox.com, which is a good portion of the functionality that we make available in our paid plans. So it allows people to see how easy it is to connect their different tools, connect their Google, Facebook, and LinkedIn ads, and then build a dashboard and a report that includes data from all three of those tools. And so they can do that in minutes. So the free product allows them to kind of see that, get accustomed to it, see if they want to go further, and they can use that free product for a while and see if it's helpful in some way before they might dive into our more advanced functionality and talk to our sales team.
Well, I mean, look, there's so much to unpack from this conversation. I mean, look, Pete, we talked a little bit, of course, about what the journey has been for DataBox in their own sales and marketing organizations. We went under the hood about how the company operates. We talked a little bit about your time at HubSpot. I mean, it's been, and we talked about the future of where RevOps might be going. So, Pete, I appreciate you coming on and jamming with me today on this stuff.
Yeah, awesome, man. No, it's always good to catch up. Like having you in my orbit, even though we don't exchange money. From you, and I appreciate all the questions. It helps me think too and process. So thanks.
Yeah, of course, Pete. And this has been another episode of RevOps 500, and we'll catch you guys the next time.
And that wraps up another episode of RevOps 500. Thanks for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at RevOps500.com. RevOps 500 is sponsored by Qualitative, providing technical and development expertise to growth-focused marketing teams.